symmetrical, backwards and forwards the same way. And this is not one, these are multiple instances in the Qur'an, and this is one area of the many areas of the linguistic marvel of the Qur'an. The only other thing I want to comment that's easily understandable, actually two things. One, from a historical point of view. In the 1600s, I believe this was a professor of the Catholic Church, had written a paper about the great error in the Qur'an, the great historical error in the Qur'an. And that refers to, you know, the Pharaoh and Moses. Well, Pharaoh in the Qur'an tells one of his ministers, whose name is Haman, okay, he tells him to build him a tower, so he may reach the God of Moses and, you know, to discuss with him. Now, this occurs about 4 or 5 times in the Qur'an. Haman is mentioned a total of 6 times in the Qur'an. When Christian and Jewish scholarship came into contact with this passage, the criticism was, first of all, there's no Haman mentioned in the Bible in association with the Pharaoh. Second of all, he has been mentioned in the book of Esther under the king Xerxes, in the story of the Tower of Babylon, the Tower of Babel, the famous story. And this is 1,000 years after Moses. So it's a completely different historical era where Haman, and that man Haman has been mentioned as building a tower. So the obvious alleged error was that Muhammad, ma'adallah, may have confused these stories that he was kind of getting from the Christians and Jews and kind of mixed them together and presented this. And this has been something that's been reiterated in Jewish Studies Encyclopedia. And,
all right, well, let me break in on here. And I am not an expert in this, so it's hard for me to comment on the specific, but that there is allegation that the Quran is bits and pieces of different Gnostic and different other religious literature that was out there at the time.
Yeah, there's no evidence to it. And the coherence of the Qur'an, the cohesion of it as a text, is the ultimate proof to the contrary. But just on that historicity point, Maurice Bucquois, it's about 70 years ago that he engaged in this study. He said, well, Jewish history contradicts what the Qur'an is saying about Haman and this tower building. Mm-hmm. Let's look at Egyptology. Let's look at Egyptian history, because the French and the Germans at the late part of the 1800s had already started translating or getting into Egyptian hieroglyphics and reformulating the language to try to translate some of the ancient Egyptian texts. Egyptology was a big deal in the early 1900s even. So he travels to speak to some of these Egyptologists, says to them the Qur'an has this name, Haman, as a minister working for the historical Pharaoh at the time of Moses, that specific Pharaoh. Egyptologists tell him, and this is actually articulated in his book, The Bible, Qur'an, and Science, that there's no way this man could have known that name, and it's not even going to be there because that language, the Egyptian hieroglyphic language, was already dead for a couple of thousand years. Nobody knew that language. Mm-hmm. After translation, he goes to Austria and finds out there's actually a list of people that worked in the court of Pharaoh. They find Haman as the chief architect. That's actually found in Egyptology, a name mentioned in the Qur'an. So from the historical point of view, last comment on this issue of the miraculous nature of the Qur'an claims, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr. We are the ones who have revealed the ultimate reminder.
We meaning?
God himself. He speaks of himself in the royal.
Okay.
And he says we've made the Qur'an easy for remembrance. We've made the Qur'an easy for remembrance. This is a statement occurred multiple times in the Qur'an. To this day, the only book that, to my knowledge, that is memorized by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people of all ages, despite their language background, by the letter, from one end of the book to the other, is the Qur'an without photographic memory. I don't have photographic memory. I just started learning Arabic in 2000. I've already memorized half the Qur'an. And this is part-time endeavor. You know, in Chicagoland, probably you'd find a couple of hundred kids that have easily memorized the entire Qur'an. In China, you'll find kids that have memorized, adults that have memorized Qur'an. So the fact that the Qur'an says that it's miraculously easy to memorize, a 600-page document, miraculously easy to memorize, and it's memorized by people from all over the world to the letter, in and of itself is a miracle.
We're going to have to get together again. They're signaling that we are out of time. Frank,
definitely need more time on these topics.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for being with us, Frank. Thank you, Brother Norman Khan. And I'd like to thank you for sitting tight to another episode of The Dean Show. As you can see, we can sit with our brothers in humanity and discuss some of these topics in a civil way, and we can agree to disagree, or one day that brother that you're sitting with might acknowledge that there's only one God, and he agrees to worship the Creator alone without any associates, and that Muhammad is the last and final messenger. So with that said, we hope to see you again next time on the Deen Show. Until then, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you.
Alaikum assalam.
Allah, there's only one God and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم